Cool.
So hi everyone, it's Soul Style Talks are back, and can't believe it's 2022 February already, but I am really excited for my first talk of 2022 to be Rhiannon Monks. And Rhiannon is ex-founder and CEO of TravlTalk. She's a world traveler. She is energetic, fun, and just curious soul in general. And she's a woman in tech. So hi, Rhiannon. Hi, welcome to Soul Style Talks with me, Gabby. Hi, how are you?
Yeah, I'm good. Thanks for having me.
Great. And so you are joining us tonight from Budapest. Is that right?
Yes, I'm in an Airbnb in Budapest. I took a quick break from London, that thing called traveling we forgot existed.
Exactly. No, I'm really happy you are here and you could join me. So let's just kick off. These talks are all about love what you do, and it's very important topic because I think it's about, in life we should do things that we are really excited about, and they kind of gives us that, oh, I'm just so happy, and in general the passion. So love what you do. What does it mean to you?
Yeah, I think to me it means that you get up every day and you're really excited about that thing you're doing. And I was lucky enough, for part of my life I got to do a lot of traveling, and I certainly wake up every morning and love that. I love the people I met. And then when I moved into getting a job, I really took a lot of effort, put a lot of effort into finding the roles that gave me joy, that made me feel like I was solving problems, helping people, because that matters to me. And I know you mentioned that I had my own business too, and I think I really learned at that point that if you're in a business and you're running one and you don't like what you do, that's when things start to go pear-shaped and you're not happy anymore.
That's right. Yeah. So tell me about the TravlTalk journey.
Yeah, well, it was an interesting one. It didn't end exactly the way I had expected, which was a bit sad, but it was a great 4 years of my life. And it was certainly, I must say, every single day that I woke up, I really did love what I was doing, and it brought me joy. And my business was my baby. People described it like that. In the end, it became a company, and I stopped describing it as my baby because it felt wrong. And I wanted other people to, feel like they have ownership. But I learned so many things doing it, and I don't regret a single minute of it.
Okay, so TravlTalk, I know it has been described, from what I was reading, the travel app, like a Tinder but without the dating. So what is it behind it, the quote?
Yeah, I guess we live in a world these days where you are using mobile apps to meet people, and a big part of my life was formed by amazing people I met traveling. And I wanted everyone to experience that, even people who I think didn't perhaps think that they had the confidence to just suddenly meet perfect strangers in a foreign setting. And I thought that by bringing together maybe those aspects of Tinder that help people connect, but removing that dating element, because when you're traveling and you're meeting people, you don't want to be dating them necessarily. It's more of a friendship. And so that was the kind of idea behind it, and we did pretty well. For a while there, it was being used in 50 countries, and everyone I told about it, they really loved the idea, and they would always say, I would use that, or that's something that we need. But of course COVID came along, and a travel app just really couldn't survive in that climate when it still needed funding. We weren't able to kind of provide enough revenue to be on our own 2 feet at that point.
That's right. So tell me a little bit more about raising funds as a woman, especially.
Yeah, look, I mean, without sounding a bit negative, it's really true what they say. I think the number is something like only 7% of funding was going or still goes to female founders. And it's still low. And I'm just talking about males and females here, not really going into that whole diversity thing, just on that number alone. But I had a plan that I really wanted to kind of, play with the same people at the top that I would work with. And that was often around a lot of men. So I didn't want to go down, the female in tech route. I thought, well, actually, I think I should be able to compete with anyone of any gender.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I got pretty far, but I certainly hit that glass ceiling that people told me existed, and I almost didn't want to believe them. But when I did, in the end, the people making the decisions as to where the investment money goes, typically men, and they tend to invest in people that they see, their younger selves in. And
right.
I guess, women sometimes do come across as very passionate. The word passionate is used to describe me quite a lot. And sometimes I think passionate can also mean, we're a bit worried that you might be too emotional, or do things, if you like, that men don't do. And I'm not blaming men at all for the fact that my business didn't succeed, but just the general landscape out there for female founders is harder, and certainly female in tech as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I was proud to be part of it, just for as a contributor and just writing for the app, and it was an amazing experience. And loved your podcast as well, which was great. And
you're a guest on my podcast.
That's right. Yeah. And then just reading the other people's stories and the suggestions, and from different sort of countries, isn't it? They were all passionate about that. They were all passionate about traveling, but passionate about sharing the information and passing it on. So do you think you would do it again after COVID?
I mean, TravlTalk is an app. No. There are multiple reasons. When you've had a business that doesn't succeed, it's not as simple as saying I'll start it all over again, especially because in the process I did have to, the money that went in from investment was obviously lost. I was thinking the other day that, in this climate where we've just seen this movie come out called The Tinder Swindler, and, with I think online apps becoming more dangerous, I did have this sort of epiphany that almost sometimes things happen for a reason. And while I would have never wanted my company to go under, I do acknowledge that maybe today, if the app was out there and people were using it, if I had ever sort of come across a situation where someone, was placed in a difficult position because of it, I would have never forgiven myself. And I think that, I want this idea to succeed, and I would love to have a hand in, that happening one day in whatever form that is. But I do think, what is most important for an idea like that to succeed is that you are, from day one, getting a really large amount of money with some really good caliber investors that care about, security and infrastructure, which, 4 or 5 years ago when I was starting, a lot of those things hadn't been formally created, for the internet at large. And we're in a different world today. And I think, if I started it all over again, those are the things that I would need to see and be guaranteed on for even wanting to take it further. And that's just out of respect to people, and certainly women that would be traveling solo.
Okay. So what is different now that wasn't like that 5 years ago? You mentioned that we are living in a different world. Yes, we are living in a different world. So what do you mean exactly?
I think, we're all learning how to use the internet better and better. And with that comes, more and more scams, right? And I think those numbers are just increasing. When things like Tinder or even Facebook first came out, we were also excited and we loved them, and we threw ourselves at them. And then it was, more and more people were getting catfished or swindled. And I think, it's not the users necessarily that are doing the damage, but it's the people that go into those apps with a clear target. And that's where you can't really stop them, but you need to be set up to do what you can to prevent those nefarious characters from winning or hurting others.
Yeah, that's right. The bad intention, isn't it, from their side? Yeah,
exactly. But in terms of, would I go again? I think what I have been recently thinking is I love that experience of running my own company. And there are other ideas that I've had, in the past that maybe, would have a chance down the line. And the fact that I know how to pretty much spin up a business, what things I wouldn't do again, what I would avoid. It could be that it's not a travel talk, but it's some other thing that I'm able to apply that knowledge to. So that gives me hope, but I'm not, ready to do that at the moment.
Yeah, no, that's totally fine. Yeah, it's nice to have a break and do something different, isn't it? Although, I mean, what do you think this experience has given you the most, running your own company?
I think the confidence that, I can step into a business and not only add value from day one, but I can really empathize with senior leaders, the CEO, the CTO, whereas when I was employed in a company, I certainly had opinions on, what was going on above me. You always think you can do something better, and sometimes you can. But I kind of stepped away from Travel Talk, realizing that the hard days come when, you have to make the tough decisions, or you've got employees that naturally have rights and you've got to look after those people. But, if you need something done and your employee is not well, or, it's taking a holiday, which they deserve, you kind of have to account for that. And they're not supposed to care about your problems, but you're supposed to care about theirs. And so I walked away with a lot more empathy, if you like, for what it means to have a business. It sounds nice on paper, but actually you're the one staying up at night worrying. And that's why I suppose I likened it to having a baby, because let's face it, if you've got a baby and it's crying at 2 a.m., you're getting up, no one else is getting up, right?
That is so true. And you never switch off. Is that right as well?
Yes.
So from being the founder, you had to wear like a different hats, all the time. So which one would you say suited you the best, and which ones you were like, oh, this doesn't really suit me?
Yeah, I mean, actually, I realized that I didn't want to be a CEO.
Okay.
I would have stayed a CEO, of course, if Travel Talk was still there, but I would have happily sort of moved myself into a CTO position and actually have someone step in who is better at, some of those more offline conversations. I like talking to investors. I'm a sociable person, but I think, sometimes actually having a person, whether that's a woman or a man, next to you to handle those conversations can be beneficial. And I learned a lot about hiring as well. You think, oh, wouldn't it be nice to be in a position to hire people and decide who joins your company? But it's a very difficult thing. So I have as well a lot more empathy for HR. But I suppose what I gravitated towards was the digital media, the marketing, which I'll always love, but also the tech. And now obviously I emerged, despite losing my business, as a software developer. So I'm proud to be able to say that.
Yeah, that's brilliant. And talking about you being a woman in tech, I think that started you taking 12 weeks course at General Assembly. Is that right? The coding course. So what was the main trigger, for you to do that, and where did it lead to? And have you always been interested in coding, or is it something new?
Yeah, I mean, I actually took the 3-month coding course back in 2015, and it was actually what helped me very much when I did run my own company, because when I had to hire developers or understand how a tech stack was put together, I already had that foundational knowledge. But I'm 39, so when I was at school, we didn't have any technology classes. In fact, I didn't send my first email until I was in high school. So and mobile phones came along about the same time, and they were pretty rudimentary back then. So I didn't really know what technology meant, certainly what development would have meant, until later in life when I started to be in companies where we were using or actually even responsible for helping others understand how to use digital media. And that involved me often managing developers or coming up with technical solutions. And as I got more and more involved in that process, I became fascinated with how it was done. And I'm just I'm always curious, and I like to do things. And I was also married to a software developer at the time, and I suppose I'd always been with boyfriends who were quite technical, so I'd learned through their eyes as well. And I wanted to learn to code, and that really kicked off, I suppose. I'm 7 years into that journey, and I've learned very quickly that you'll never know everything as a developer, but I like to think, I'm in a really strong position with hopefully another 40 years ahead of me to take those skills forward and also help, those that come after me, certainly whether that's people at a later stage of their life that want to pivot their career, or, something close to my heart, which is women in tech who are, sometimes treated differently. And I think, the more I can pave the way for someone like myself bowling into a development squad as the only woman, and teaching them that this is how women are, we can be talkative and loud and pretty different from them, but still add value, right?
That's it. And that's what makes us special.
Exactly. And just change that mindset of what a developer looks like. I mean, I'm still trying, because I get pushback all the time and people don't want to accept, quite frankly, that, I've come from marketing, I've had my own business, and I could possibly be a software developer at 39. But, mark my words, I'm not going anywhere.
She isn't, trust me. And so what kind of encouragement would you give women who are saying, oh my God, technology, no, I wouldn't be able to do this and study, and especially, I don't know, being, 39 or 40 or whatever age. So what would be the kind of the ingredient that, in the encouragement ingredient that you would say, like, yes, you can do it, or, how to sort of push them to go for it?
Yeah, I mean, like, literally just do it. I know it feels kind of wrong using the Nike phrase, but I think jumping in and doing it, and not seeing that barrier, what I said earlier, where when I wanted to raise money, I thought, I'm going to do it just like all the boys do it. And I never saw a problem with that. And in fact, I think that's what got me so far. Not everyone wants to probably have a technical career, but these days, I think, kids are coming through school learning coding anyway. But I think don't be afraid, because the more of us that jump forward and do it, the less strange it's going to become. And, there's other people like me that want to improve things for, to create that gender balance. But, don't be afraid, because women are strong and powerful and wonderful, and good men are also great assets and companions and colleagues too. So, there's only a few people out there that I think make the situation uncomfortable for others, and they tend to be doing that for men and women, not just women.
Oh yeah, that was so beautifully said. Yeah, exactly. I think us women, we do, because we have got lots of emotions and we are not afraid to sort of show it, as you say, we can show the passion and everything else. That's probably what can sound as a weakness, but it is not, and we should be really using it as a strength, isn't it, to push it more forward and taking those steps to go for it. So
exactly. And I think only then, if we embrace who we are, we will redesign the expectations of what somebody, looks like in a developer role. Because actually, you don't want a whole bunch of, carbon copies in any company, let alone any department. And I think, what I saw when I joined my most recent company as a developer, as the only girl on a 20 male development team, was that, like, they started talking more and they started sharing their feelings, and they were more open, and they seemed happier as well, actually. Whereas I think, when there's a whole bunch of men together, they're probably not going to be like, hey, what did you do last night? Whereas I join the call and get social, and then they'd throw some stuff back at me. And in the end, I would say at times I was like, stop talking about my hair. But it was pretty funny, because I was like, I have to go now, I've got a hair appointment. And then they'd be like, so what goes on at the hairdressers? And then I'd tell them. And I just thought, isn't this cool? Because in the end, they're not going to be having these conversations with each other if I wasn't here. So.
Oh, that's so cool. That's brilliant. You are making waves already, Rhiannon. So brilliant. So, talking about, love of the traveling and being a world traveler, and, knowing that traveling is medicine for the soul. It is for me, and I'm sure it is for you. What was your best medicine recently, or which country was your best medicine for your soul, would you say, or that inspired you somehow?
Well, about 2006, I went to Argentina. I'd finished studying, and I think I was on the cusp of being like 23, 24. And I thought, wonder what Rhiannon will be like in, 15 years time. Well, here she is. But I think, it gave me, I stayed in that city for 6 months. I learned Spanish. And, I felt like Buenos Aires really encompassed me as a person that had, it had a lot of cultural aspects in the sense of, there was flair of like tango and like the old,
lovely.
antique markets. It had a history. And then, it had this like really interesting food, and there were very passionate people, and a beautiful setting. And so it gave me a chance to really think about what I cared about, what was important to me. And then, I'd say the other time was after my marriage breakdown. I was naturally lost, and I've always used traveling, I think, as a way of processing information, but also inviting change into my life, or allowing me to use my surroundings, which are often, foreign and new and different. I'm from Australia, so Argentina wasn't like Australia. To kind of try to take that information in and work out what I want. So yeah, after my marriage breakdown, I went through the Balkans for 2 months, and that Macedonia. I went to Albania, through Kosovo, and then spent a bit of time in Austria and also Italy. And again, it recharged the batteries. And I think, if I can say anything to anyone about traveling, it's a great thing to do when you are a little bit stuck. Even if you just go for a week or 2 weeks, like I did from London. I was like, right, I'm in between jobs. I don't have a house. I need to move anyway. I'm going to go to Budapest for, for 3-4 weeks. And I've done that. It was a £50 flight. I'm not going to lie. Sometimes I feel a little bit alone and like, why am I in Budapest? But then I walk outside and I'm like, I'm in Budapest.
Yes, and I agree with you on that one, because you need to get out of your environment if you need to. At least I do as well, just when you need to do the reflection and getting some sort of clarification of what is the next right step. Maybe the whole scenario will come, but maybe exactly just that one little thing will pop into your head. It's like, oh, okay, I know what I'm doing. It's not everything, but at least I'm taking this little step. So I'm hoping that is happening for you right now.
Exactly. And I think that's something we can't do when we don't remove ourselves from our surroundings, whether that's, over that relationship, or having the, courage to face the fact that you want to change jobs. When you kind of wake up in your bed and you go to your bathroom and, you have your shower, you put your makeup on, and you go do the same thing you did for the past, 2 months, 4 months, 2 years, you're not able to think of a new environment or a new way of doing things. Whereas if you pluck yourself out of that, even for a week, it's amazing what ideas come into your head and how you see things differently.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm sort of listening to audiobook right now, and it's called Flip It. So it's like flipping, the negative into positive, or where they say, if you go to work, try to take different turn, it's just breaking the routine. So for people who don't necessarily have the time or the funds to travel far away, maybe doing these little things to start off, it might hopefully help as well. So
definitely. But I would add, the funds, obviously, I do appreciate that it still requires some money, but my flight was £50 to Budapest.
Oh, was it? Oh, wow.
Yeah,
okay.
And that included my suitcase. And
brilliant.
actually, I stayed in a hostel for the first week just to get to know some other people, and then I rented a fairly cheap Airbnb, which is what you can do depending on what country you go to.
That's right.
So I sort of, in this instance, I said, well, actually, to rent a spare room in London is going to cost £1,000. So if I can manage to spend less than that in Budapest and £50 on the flight, I'm actually saving money.
Yes, and enjoying yourself, and being in a different environment. That's brilliant. I love it. So you being very curious person, and very energetic, what are you most curious about at the moment?
I think, what the next 40 years of my life is going to look like.
Oh, that's a big one, Rhiannon.
I know, that's why I'm so curious. But
That's
I
it.
think after 40 years nearly already on this planet, what I do love is people. I love the little idiosyncrasies that make people who they are. I love people in all their faults, and their strengths and their weaknesses, I think, is what I'm trying to say. And I love that no person is the same, and that connection after 2 and a bit years of COVID, which really has kept us quite isolated. I'm quite excited about the idea that I'm, hopefully going to meet somebody that is going to be important to me, because, I am single, and I certainly have, got over past relationships, and that excites me. It causes me sometimes a little bit of apprehension, of course, but I guess I'm curious, like what I'll be saying if someone was to do a podcast with me like this in another 10 or 15 years, and I would look back and say, Gabby asked me, what am I curious about? I'm curious about what I'll look like then, not physically, but what my life will look like, who'll be around me, which I guess is exciting, right?
It's very exciting, and we can definitely schedule that, Rhiannon. That's not a problem at all. I'm going to put it in my diary.
It would be interesting, wouldn't it, if we do the same talks with the people that you interviewed 15 years on.
Exactly. No, definitely great idea there already. So there you go. And I have noticed that you sort of have been just going through your Instagram and social media, that you have been writing poems, and they're really, really great. When I sort of read them through, I was like, wow, pretty cool. So has this always been an interest of yours, or is it recent, or what does it give you?
Yeah, well, actually, since I was about 8 years old, I really love writing poetry, and everyone in my family knows this. In fact, my sister actually asked me to write a poem for her wedding. That was a good 13 years ago now. But I saw someone online actually that re-inspired me to get closer to poetry, and I'm glad I did, because I think it's a beautiful art form, and I guess it wasn't cool for a while. Maybe, I didn't care about that, but it was more like in my youth, if you like, I wasn't thinking about writing poems, but the way that poems come to me is they just suddenly, it's like they possess my body. So any poem you read, it has literally just come into my head and been like blurted out onto the page within 2 minutes, and I don't change it. So I don't sit there and think I'm going to write a poem today. It's like something just kind of like inserts into my brain, and then I need to find something to write, and then it comes out. And so, I would like to actually do a bit of an anthology or a poetry reading. I was looking in London to see if there were any live poetry readings, and there's not that many, unfortunately, but I think, it's something that brings me joy, and it's so simple, and it's a little thing, it's not like a big undertaking, and I would love poetry to come back, in a bigger way.
It feels very sort of soulful and romantic. It doesn't matter whether it's men writing it to women or you writing it to all of us on social media. It kind of is like that softness is like, oh yeah, that's really nice.
And also I'd say, as a native English speaker, obviously, English for you is a second language, and I'm in awe of people who can use English so well in their first language. But maybe for me, the joy, I guess, as being a native English speaker is really using English in a way that, you're not necessarily supposed to. I think they call it poetic license, actually, but it's kind of arranging words that you don't often see together, or organizing sentences to really extract what I think a word is about, and if you place it next to something else, it has a totally different meaning than if it's next to another word. And for me, that is the crux of poetry. And also why I'm so obsessed with Wordle at the moment as well, because it's like you know, I think people just get into the words and language and how, you know, they're created, and poetry gives you that ability to explore it.
Definitely. I mean, you know, that's very artistic. It's like, as you say, you being possessed. It's like having like a magic wand, and then you just Harry Pottering and doing your poetry. So it's brilliant. So it's really, really cool. And I hope we're going to see more of that. I'm definitely excited to see more of that. So yeah. And then I think probably just summer it up, and last sort of question from me would be, you know, we have just discussed the women in tech and the encouragement, but if someone is thinking of the idea of going for starting a business and being a founder, whether it's men or a women, what sort of advice would you give them?
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna probably make it a bit boring, but I think, you know, sometimes the age-old advice is actually the right advice. And I think some small things like just get your business affairs in order, you know, try to engage with a lawyer early on that you can lean on, make sure you have a mentor or someone that you can really go to when you're having darker times. Have a good accountant as soon as you can pay someone to do that, because in the end, like, I see so many people with great ideas and passion, which is absolutely what you need. And I want to inspire those people, but I want them to know that, you know, things get tough and it doesn't always go the way that you want it to. And at that moment, you're still responsible for a company, right? And on paper, it's not a lighthearted thing, you know, and that can come with potentially, you know, business debt and other things. And if you don't handle that correctly, you will be left liable. And I did a good job, thankfully, of you know, handling that. But it still felt bad when my business went under and investors lost money. But you know, the people that don't get those affairs in order on day one are not really thinking of the end. It's like when I got married, I wasn't thinking about my divorce, but I can tell you, you know, I did it differently. So I don't want to end it on a dark note, but I think it's still important to remember that we can have these big ideas, these dreams, but you still have to stay grounded and realize that you're bringing something into the world that, you know, can go badly sometimes. You know, it's like, just be careful, you know, and be sensible.
Yeah. I mean, I think having the reality check is really, really important, isn't it? As you say, it's great to have the dreams up there, because that's what will keep you going. And I've seen that with you, you know, you kept going and going, which is amazing. But I've also seen, you know, where things, you know, as you say, when things don't go well, what do you do then? You know, you have to have a backup, as you say, you have to have a good people around you that you know, that can sort of support you when you are not at your greatest, or where things don't go well as well, isn't it?
But to end on a high note, I would say, you know, believe, and it really is true. Like, if you have an idea and you're passionate about something, believe in yourself and never, ever, ever stop believing in yourself. Because I realized the minute I ever thought, TravlTalk might not work, which I never did, was the day I should stop running that company and certainly stop asking other people to believe in it. And I think, you know, it's not about having that blind belief where you ignore, you know, all the signs. And that's why I had to say at the beginning, you know, do get your affairs in order. But that lighthearted part to it is do believe in yourself. So many good things come from believing that you can do something. And I look at Olympic athletes, or you know, anyone chasing their dreams and accomplishing things that I don't feel like I could do. And I think, how does someone wake up one morning and think, I'm going to win that race, or I'm going to climb that mountain, or, you know, whatever it is that's big to them? They obviously believed in themselves. And isn't that a beautiful thing to know that as human beings, belief can take you so far.
It can, it really, really can. And I think we still are forgetting about it sometimes, you know, where we not feel great, or things are tough and life is stressful, you know, we lost ourselves, don't we, sometimes? And it takes some time to get ourselves back up, and, you know, maybe finding yourselves again, you know, being either with traveling or just sitting yourself in, you know, with nature, or speaking to your friend of yours and just chatting. So yes, no, absolutely great, great ideas and amazing chat and conversation, lots of awesome advice and encouragement. So I just really want to thank you, Rhiannon. It was great to have you on. And whatever step you take, I hope that you will always love what you do.
Thanks, Gabby. I also just want to thank you so much. You are such a beautiful person, and you know, these questions were lovely because it allowed me to kind of, I guess, explore parts of myself that I haven't done for a while.
Yeah.
And you know, people like you give people like me so much joy as well. So you know, I want to acknowledge you there as well, for doing these talks and you know, bringing that sort of light into people's lives as well. Because without you, people don't get to answer questions like this.
Thanks so much. It really warms my heart. As I said, I love doing this. It's still the beginning for me, but as I said, you know, it is the encouragement and the belief, and I will continue because that is something that I am passionate about. So thanks so much again, Rhiannon.
You should. Thank you.
Thank you. Take care. Bye.